Good morning, everybody. We are back again as promised yesterday. Today we have with us Mr. Anil Swarup, a well-known name. He has been serving the nation since a long time. During his career spanning 38 years, he has attempted to make it happen. Born in Allahabad, Uttar Pradesh, he earned his master's degree in political science from Allahabad University in 1978, where he was awarded the Chancellor's Gold Medal for being a best all-rounder student. He served the Indian Police Service for a year and then joined the Indian Administrative Services in 1981. He won the Director's Gold Medal for Administration among the officers of his batch. As a civil servant, he has various important assignments with the state government as well as the central government. May I present before you Mr. Anil Swarup. Good morning,
sir. Thank you very much. Good morning. Thank you very much. Good morning to everyone here. What a pleasure it is to be amidst you all. We are all going through a bit of a crisis. I think it is quite unprecedented, not expected. Everyone is attempting to grapple with this. And I will try and speak in this context itself and in the context of education. Given the state of affairs, what are the options that are available in terms of school education? As I look at school education, I try and split the children into two segments. One is the segment that has access to internet, that has access to smartphones. And the other is the segment which does not have access to internet. There's a large segment. In fact, in urban areas, we tend to forget the problems that people who do not have access to internet are facing. And they are not merely in terms of economic problems, they're also psychological. And obviously, the children are unable to get educated. So I'll try and touch upon these two aspects and see what is being done and what can possibly be done. Let me start with that segment of children that have access to smartphones and internet. I recently read somewhere that some government has banned the use of computers and smartphones for children up to class 2. And it has made me wonder, because in any case, the child of that age, and I have granddaughters who are in class 2, who just gone to class 2, I know how much they are hooked onto telephone. Now, whether I teach them on telephone or not, irrespective of that, since they are confined in the four walls of a house, they are hooked onto the phone. So my contention is that if they are already hooked onto phone, try and get them attracted to something through which they can learn, rather than see some things on the phone which may not benefit them to an extent that otherwise curriculum would be. You know, some people had asked me that how do you get people onto laptop and telephones? I said, you don't have to ask them, they're already there. The question is whether we are able to come up with material which is good enough for them to feel attracted. That's the challenge. That's the challenge that the teachers have. That's the challenge that the creative people have, to come up with videos and audios that are attractive enough for children of every age to induce them into watching what we want to watch them rather than what they are watching. So wherever there is internet available, there are smartphones available. Some schools have already taken the initiative to work out their daily schedules. They have 1 hour, 2 hour classes, and they give homework as well. Children are asked to do that homework, which is very good. I have always believed that technology can never replace a teacher. It will never replace it. But technology can be a great facilitator. It's a phenomenal tool to make education much more enjoyable as compared to what we had during our times. I was fortunate to have very good teachers, but there were a couple of them where I found it difficult to sit through the hour that they taught. And I wish then there was technology available, because they could have made education a bit more interesting. I remember distinctly when I was trying to understand Archimedes' principle as a child, I used to struggle to understand it. I did finally understand it. But as education secretary, some gentleman came over and showed me a 2-minute video clip on Archimedes' principle, and bingo, I understood straight away. So that's the beauty of technology. The question is how we are using that technology, whether it's being used for the purpose as an instrument for making reading enjoyable. Technology can also reduce the burden of the bag. And I saw that in Tamil Nadu, again, as Secretary of Education, where they were using QR codes to eliminate a few pages. And the beauty of QR codes is that you can keep changing the backend data. It's not fixed. Like in a book, if you want to change it, you got to bring it in the new book. In a QR code, You just take the
Scan
image
it.
of that QR code, and at the back end, you can keep changing the material. So you can actually reduce the burden. So whereas on the one hand, we make life easy for the child, on the other, we make life interesting for the child because then he starts enjoying that teaching. So to me, COVID is a huge opportunity to come up with such material which can be used even when COVID is not there. So it has thrown a challenge to all the innovators, all the people who are involved in this business to come up with that material which is so interesting that the child gets hooked onto it. But as I keep repeating, technology can never and should not ever replace teachers because the human touch is the essence of existence. If that goes away and you are only hooked onto technology, there is a problem. Because technology, by and large, provides you only a two-dimensional view of life, two-dimensional view of what you see. Of course, there are three-dimensional things now also available, but the visual three-dimensional has a different impact on the child, and hence it's people who are arguing that will post-COVID era mean that the teachers will wither away. I hope not, and I think they would not. They would continue to use technology in a much better manner to make, as I see, uh, teaching much more enjoyable. So this is as far as the those children that are uh, that have this access to internet and smartphones are concerned. My major concern is about children who do not have that access. And it is in this context that recently, about 20 days ago, we organized under the aegis of Nexus of Good a webinar, a national webinar in which almost around 2,000 people participated, where we tried to explore the areas where we could reach out to children that do not have access to internet. And those in Delhi do not realize a large segment of population or children do not have access to internet. Now, there are a number, as I said earlier, there are a number of issues associated with it. Imagine a scenario as an adult, even for an adult to sit in the four walls of a room or a house is a difficult job. You can stay there for a day or 2 days. Otherwise, it becomes a jail. So it's a psychological pressure. So much more important than teaching, to my mind, the first and a major step is engagement with the child. How do you engage with the child? Because he's alone, he sees his parents every day, day in and day out. They have their own worries, the economic, financial worries. It's a psychological drain on the child also. So you have to reach out to the child. Now, for children that have access to internet, I have already told that outreach is much easier. But children who do not have that, you have to look at alternative vehicles of outreaching them. And one such vehicle is telephone. You know, outreach of telephone is much, much more than internet. So there are a number of places where teachers are actually talking to parents and children on phone once in 2 days, once in 3 days, but they're reaching out to them. So telephone is one way to reach out. The other is radio. Radio has phenomenal outreach. It's so much that some of the NGOs I know, Sampark Foundation is using the radio as a phenomenal tool for making children learn, and it's working. It's working very well. So through radio broadcast, there are limitations to this. People will argue this cannot do this, this can't happen. But the point is, what are the alternatives available to you? This is certainly not an ideal way of teaching a child. But if the ideal way is not available through the teacher, then what are the alternatives? So whatever I'm saying is an alternative. It is not a replacement for teacher, mind you. So radio can be one element where already All India Radio and other radio channels are coming up with, lessons and classes which children are benefiting. Some of them came up for presentation. And those of you that are interested, I've given in the chat box the portal that we have. Just at www and nexusofgood.org.in. You can go to that portal and actually look at those practices that are actually happening in the field are doing well. I will digress a bit just to explain to you what is this Nexus of Good all about. It happened because as I looked around and close to the end of my career, I looked around, I saw so much good work was happening, but that was not being talked about. Everyone was enjoying negativity that was being prevailed. I used to jokingly say, nation wants to know negative things. But fortunately, nation also wants to know positive things. And there's so much good that is happening. Can we create a platform where these good people can present their case so that others feel inspired and replicate and scale them? That's what Nexus of Good is all about. It's about celebrating the good work being done around you so that people feel good about doing good work. They feel appreciated about good work, and thereby they inspire others to do good work, and that's how the goodness can grow. There are a number of examples where through such positioning, through such mentioning the good work that was done at one place has expanded to many other places. And I keep giving this example of Pastepada. It's there on the Nexus Good portal, where a single school, which was a government primary school, had no electricity, managed to get tablets, managed to get a smart screen, and that model is now replicated in more than 50,000 schools of Maharashtra. That's the scaling that happened. And it happened because the good work, as I visited that place, could be propagated. I managed to, when I met the President of India, I mentioned this to him. He called the teacher over, Sandeep Good. He met with him. His work was tweeted, his work was publicized, others got induced, and the good work expanded. Similarly, many other good things have expanded. Here again, whatever that is happening in areas where there is no internet or where there are no smartphones, because people have phones which are not smartphones, so you can't use through the internet. But through the other technology, you can actually talk to them. The other, as I said, was radio. And third is television. Television access is much more than internet. So there are a lot many television programs. Government has channels through which they are running it, and they're very good channels, very professional channels. So wherever you go, whoever you meet, you have to tell about these channels so that children can benefit. Again, I'm repeating, it is not an alternative to teacher, but given the set of circumstances that we are in, that's the way forward. And finally, people will have come up with very unique ways of reaching out to children and teaching them. So if children live in a cluster, so in a village, so teacher can actually go to the village and go to their houses periodically, once in 2 days, once in 3 days, give them sheets for worksheets, collect them later on. I'm not saying it's not easy or simple. I'm not even saying it's a substitute, but I think to keep the child engaged and keep them doing. These are tough times. We are tough time,
So
COVID times,
recently,
and yes,
yeah,
and
it's very tough. It's really tough. Mr.
we
Yes,
have
sir,
to keep
please.
a balance. We have to keep a balance, and it's very important for parents and teachers, because the behavior of parents and teachers will determine the behavior of a child. I don't know how many of you are aware that the mental status of a child gets totally frozen, almost frozen, in the first 7 8 years of his existence. And how we treat the child at that point, I was not aware. When I had my own children, I was not aware of this fact. Probably my behavior would have changed towards my children had I known that. But now I know for sure, and researchers have clearly established that the whole attitude, the whole, the brain gets frozen in the first 7 8 years. But thereafter, it's very little that gets changed. Most of us don't are not aware of that, and hence we ill treat, we mistreat. I mean, I can understand the pressures that the parents would be, but if they want the child to come up, they have to be very careful about how they treat the children. Uh, since there are parents here, I'm mentioning that there are issues like the schools closure. Fortunately, COVID has come at a time during there would have been summer vacation in any case. So people ask me there will be a lot of loss. I don't think so. I think we have the capability of handling that. If there is a loss of a month or two, fair enough. I mean, it can be made up. Otherwise, we are sufficiently flexible in our curriculum, and it can happen. I don't think heavens have fallen. Yes, we are going through tough times. We overcome these such tough times before. I'm certain that we are going to overcome now. I'll stop here because I'd like to make this session more interactive. Thank you for inviting me here.
Right. Sir, Mr. Marva, Sandeep Marva has recently informed us that Radio Noida 107.4 FM is fully involved with young students, and there is mstv.co.in that is broadcasting ample student programs. And I think the students can benefit from them. And as you clearly said, that it cannot replace, technology cannot replace teachers. So, sir, where do you think does ethics come in this? Like, how can the teachers be ethical and still teach their students online?
See, ethics can never be taught. I am a great believer. Ethics can be witnessed and imbibed. The child imbibes his moral values or his values from his environment. First, from his parents as he grows, he sees whether they are always telling the truth, how they are behaving with others, how they are conducting themselves, he learns. The second is when he or she gets friends around him. So that's the second exposure to the child where he gets his or her ethical values. Then when he goes to the school, children are very observant, and they know how the elders are behaving, and they tend to imbibe because the it's like a tabula rasa. It's not the right phrase to use. It's like a clean slate where what the child observes gets gets embedded in his mind, and his behavior gets changed accordingly. And hence it's very important, how irritated is the teacher, um, how truthful is the teacher, what is his attitude, what is his behavior. The child sees it very closely, and hence the parents as well as the teachers have to be very careful about while interacting with the child, or even when not interacting directly, because again the child is observant. He will see how is interacting with others, how is the behavior. So you will find people who come from cultures which are polite, they become polite because that's how they see around them. They're very polite. They're not aggressive. But if they come from a place where they're aggressive, they will imbibe that they become aggressive. Because child per se is neither aggressive nor polite. He or she observes and then behaves accordingly. So hence, the behavior of the teacher becomes extremely important. I've seen it. I have seen children being nurtured by teachers who are well behaved, and struck very well. They evolve differently because they understand. Now, as I said, ethics or moral values cannot be taught, they have to be imbibed. So it's through action and behavior
Imbibe.
that the attitude or behavior of the child evolves.
Right, right. So, sir, like in a way, it is a red flag to parents that the way you behave, the way your kids will behave. So, it's better you start behaving properly with your kids if you want them to be polite, well mannered, well versed, and well taught in school as well as in the society.
I won't call it a red flag. Red is a pejorative
So,
color in the sense of the
why
flag.
I said
I,
a
w- I
red
would
flag?
I would I would
Why
flag
I
it.
said a
I'd
red
flag it to the parents that this is in their own interest, because as the child grows, you know, he becomes troubled. There are researches to prove that a troubled family has a troubled child. I mean, I'm not saying it happening everywhere, but if the relationship
Yes.
between the parents and between parents and children is in a particular manner, the child evolves accordingly. He's very impressionistic. I mean, in the initial years, the child absorbs everything. He may not express so much, but he's absorbing, and he grows accordingly. So it's very important on how the parents behave to begin with, and then how the teachers. Of course, friends, you can't change their behavior; they will be what they are. But it will also depend on who the child interacts with. So, I mean, selection of friends also becomes very important, and he will select such friends which suit his liking, and his liking itself is determined by what he's observed in his house in the initial years, and then what he's observed his teachers in the school. So these two play a very, very important role uh, in child's development. Yeah.
Right. So, like, I was going through one of the messages where I came to know that you have written a book, Ethical Dilemmas of a Government Servant. Right. And
Uh,
it was to be launched, but due to some other reason, like because of COVID-19 pandemic, it was delayed. Right. So, what the synopsis that I have read about it, it has got everything. Like, even the students can learn a lot from that. Like, how
you
to
know,
be more ethical whenever they are doing their things. The
you know,
teachers
I,
can be more ethical.
yeah, yeah.
Yes,
The
sir.
the title of the book is Ethical Dilemma of a Civil Servant. It was supposed to be launched in the month of June, but now it is getting launched on 5th of
Yeah.
July, and invite all of you be part of that webinar. Now, this book is basically about civil servants. Of course, it could be relevant to any person. And I'm in this book, I'm trying to convey the variety of dilemmas that a civil servant faces, and it's a tough life. But my take is that if the civil servant so desires, despite this dilemma, he can achieve a lot. So the book is sandwiched between two Urdu couplets. It starts by मुख्तसर सी जिंदगी के अजब से अफसाने हैं, यहाँ तीर भी चलाने हैं, परिंदे भी बचाने. That's the major dilemma that the civil servant faces, because he has to tread very carefully, not fall yet achieve. He can, and that's the difficult thing. And in the end, the last couplet is खुद ही को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से खुद पूछे बता तेरी रजा क्या है. So ultimately it boils down to an individual. So the basic philosophy of the book is that you can't do much to others, whether it's politician or your colleagues. You can't do. You may believe that you are powerful and you can do it. You can't. But you can do a lot to yourself. You can evolve as an individual where the other person will think twice before asking you to do a wrong thing. Because it's the message that you convey, it's the aura that you convey, it's the environment that you create around yourself that the other person behaves with you. So I remember in the beginning of my career, and there are many instances that I've given, I did have a lot of moral dilemmas. But thereafter, after a few years, maybe 10, 15 years, I didn't have much of a dilemma. I knew what I had to do. I was aware of the consequences. I was prepared to take those consequences and I took those decisions. So this dilemma existed in the initial years. It's not that the moral dilemma ceased to exist, it ceased to impact my decision making. I was clear. So once you start understanding the implications of what you're doing, you start taking the responsibility of your decisions. So I, throughout my career, I never blamed others for whatever happened to me. I never believed in umr bhar yahi bhool karta raha ghalib, dhul chehre pati aina malta raha. So if you are totally focused on yourself, and if you're not blaming others for what you are, then the chances are that you will evolve in a much better manner and you will be able to handle much more complex situations. I was fortunate, I should say, we put in crisis situations. So when I was a core secretary, everything had collapsed. I mean, CBI was after officers, after files,
Yes.
production had collapsed, there were scams all over the place. But by God's grace, I had such a fantastic team and I had no dilemma. I knew what
And that
needed
is
to
how
be
you
done.
cracked, that is how you cracked it also. That is how you
See,
cracked the scam also because of your
I mean,
team.
the issue here is we all say karmanne vadikaraste ma phalishu kadachana, but we don't believe in it. Once you start believing in it, then you start enjoying the moments that you are in and you're not so bothered. I would be wrong. I'm also a human being. I'm not, I wouldn't say I'm oblivious of consequences or results, but I'm not obsessed with the results. I know that result is not in my hand, though I'm conscious of the fact that I want to get that result, but I'm not obsessed because I know there are so many other things beyond me that will ultimately determine the result. But it does not prevent me from doing what I have to do. If I do what I have to do, I derive my satisfaction from my doing what I have to do. Now, since there are young children and parents here, sometimes what happens is we get bogged down by failures or apprehension of failure, or we get bogged down by the mistakes that we've committed without realizing that every individual on this earth has committed mistakes. The successful people are those that learn from those mistakes and move on. Failures are those that keep stuck on that mistake and keep brooding over the mistake. I mean, if you committed a mistake, please don't commit it again. But you can learn a lot from that mistake. The second problem that we face is that we are so stuck up on the past. If you look at, if you think internally, you'll realize that you are really obsessed with the past. ये क्यों हुआ, वो क्यों हुआ, ऐसा क्यों हुआ? I mean, I don't think anyone can change the past. No one can change the past. But we are obsessed with the past. Consequent to which we are unable to focus on the present because these are the building blocks that will build the future. But because of our obsession, because of the time that we spent in the past, we are unable to build the present blocks. And that's very important. You got to build the present blocks. If you can't build your moments now, you can rest assured future will not be built. In any case, you don't have control of future again, but you have control over the present. If that gets done. And third, most importantly, we are hassled about issues over which we have no control. I mean, this is happening, that is happening, that will
Exactly.
happen. It's nice
Like
to discuss it.
right now, it is the biggest scene that is going on. Parents are not able to understand whether we should pay the school fees or not. The schools are unnecessarily worried. Like, though it is not unnecessary, but they are worried that how are we going to go for this session? Everybody is in a state of mess. Nobody is able to understand what has to be done and where we are heading to.
Again, there has to be a clarity of
What would
thought
you
in,
say for this, sir?
in individuals and institutions. You have to be clear as a parent, not think purely as a parent, think as a also part of the system. That if you don't pay fee to the school, how will the school survive? Because they have their fixed costs. The variable cost while teaching children is very little. Whatever cost has been incurred, so they have to pay the fee to the school. No, you can't stop paying the school because the child is not going to the school. It's not that school doesn't want them. School wants them. And many schools are making an attempt to reach out to the child. I mean, what should be done is not discussion on fee, but in discussion on how to keep the learning process going along with the school. So don't treat school as your adversary. Sit with the school and find a way to keep your child engaged. And you have to look at things positively. These are things which you have not created. COVID is not your creation or anybody's creation. It has come from somewhere. If you fight with your own partners, and I would believe school and parents are partners, if you fight with them, you're never going to fight COVID.
Exactly.
You look at that as a problem, sit with the school. Try and work out a way forward. I mean, by saying that we won't pay the fee, you are treating school as an adversary. Will that solve the problem? School will come up with something else. You start fighting with somebody with whom you would be sitting, or you should be sitting for the welfare of your child. Because you're not going to take your child out of the school, he's going to go there again. So don't destroy that relationship by stating we'll not pay the fees. If you have a problem in paying the fee, sit with the school and find out what can be done. But don't say since the school is not teaching you won't pay the fee. That's a wrong way to approach the issue.
Yeah, because this is ongoing every day. Like they are approaching the courts, they are going here, they are going there. I find there is no reason behind it because ultimately the kids have to go to school. So
No,
I
more
think
than
this
that.
is well
No,
explained, sir. And
no, more than that, we must understand who is my enemy. Don't make enemies out of partners. There is a problem. You think schools don't have a problem? Schools also have a major problem. So everyone has a problem. So instead of fighting with two people having problems, sit with the people because they are interrelated. The problems of school are related to your problems. Sit down and have a chat. You may still come to the conclusion to sack them, take them to the court. But don't start with the presumption it's a school's problem. No, you are as much a part. So treat your, I mean, in the 38 years as civil servant, and that's a part of my book also. Ethical dilemmas of a civil servant. I have tried to hammer this point. Please don't treat everyone as your adversary. Please try and appreciate the problem of the other guy. Sit across a table, attempt to find a solution. Don't come to conclusion straight away that schools are asking for fees. They obviously will ask for fees because they're. But if you have a problem, I'm not suggesting a solution. But if I were with them, I would talk to them. If I don't have money to pay the fee, because I on the back end maybe I'm not getting my salary, I'll sit with the school and say, okay, can you stagger the salary? Can you stagger the fee? Instead of asking me to pay now, can I pay a bit now and a bit later? Some sort of a solution. You have to think out of the box to find a
solution.
solution.
Yes. And sir, I think things should go on very smoothly because I don't think COVID is going to end very fast. It will take time, and we need to support the school so that our children education keeps on going on. It does not stop because schools are putting in all their efforts. Teachers are taking sessions twice a day, thrice a day, and this was a discussion yesterday also. But there are few things, sir, which needs to be sorted out. That is like how we have to take things forward collectively. Rather than making two parties, we have to come together. And that is how we will be getting everything on track. What do you say about this, sir?
No, obviously, as I kept hammering earlier, we are we have none of those stakeholders have created this problem. Neither the school, nor the parents, nor the children, nor the government. None of them have created that problem. This problem has come from elsewhere. Now, the stakeholders cannot
Exactly.
fight among themselves. They have to sit with the school, they have to sit with the children, they have to sit with the governments and try and look to a solution. No one has a cut and dried solution because it's an unprecedented thing. People keep asking, government क्यों नहीं कर रही? अरे भाई government के पास कोई जादू की छड़ी थोड़ी ना. Government is also trying to grapple with it. So instead of complaining against each other, the issue is whether we can sit around a table and attempt to find a solution. We may still not find a solution, but there's a better way because the chances are that you would. But by saying that there's no solution, you're not even starting. Make a start, make a big one.
Exactly. So, sir, can there be a framework framed like somehow through the collaboration of parents and teachers, where things move smoothly?
No, there are frameworks already. If I understood correctly, there are parent organizations who do interact with schools. The only thing that the tenor of instruction has become very, in some cases, it's not friendly. There are parents associations, they do interact. I mean, I'm not saying that create those institutions. There are already institutions there. But the two institutions should appreciate each other's points of view rather than treating that each other as adversaries. I think that's about all. I think there is no other question that I see here, so we can conclude it if there is no other
No,
question, or
yes, I think
if
we
there are
can.
any other
The
questions we can
last
continue.
question is,
Yeah, okay.
what makes it worse in the absence of any well-defined solution for this?
See, solutions are well defined when you know the situation in advance. In a situation like COVID, it is evolving. We still don't know how long it will last. Can anyone predict how much? We don't know. So we don't know. So there aren't cut and dried fixed solutions. We'll have to keep our thinking cap on to keep finding solutions. We look at a problem and try and find solution. Obviously, with assuming that it would last for 2 months, 3 months, but no one can say for sure how long it's going to last. So there is no cut and dried solution for it. But the interaction between stakeholders is imperative to find solutions.
Thank you so much, sir, for your precious time. And I
Thank you
think
very much.
everybody has got most of their answers for most of their confusions. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. God bless you.
So here we end our session. Tomorrow we will be back again. Tomorrow we have Ms. Naina Chore